The moment Carenza felt the bond snap into place, she understood why wolves spent their entire lives searching for this feeling. It was lightning in her blood, fire in her hollow chest. A wolf that had been silent for 23 years suddenly howling to life inside her. Her mate. After all this time, after everyone told her it was impossible, she looked up through the crowd, heart pounding, searching for the source of this impossible miracle, and found him. Alpha King Theron of Valdris, the most powerful wolf in the realm. His hair the color of dark honey, his jaw carved from granite, standing on the dais above 1,000 kneeling wolves. His eyes swept the great hall. And for one breathless moment they found hers. Carenza's wolf surged forward. "Mate," it screamed. "Go to him! Claim him! Ours!" But Theron's gaze moved on. His expression never changed. He walked down from the dais, past noblewomen and princesses, past warriors and healers, past her. He stopped in front of a silver-haired beauty in the front row, Lady Lysara of the Northern Territories. "I choose her," Theron announced, his voice echoing through the hall, "as my mate, my queen, my bond." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Carenza felt something inside her shatter. He had felt her too. She knew it. That single moment when their eyes met, he had known, and he had chosen someone else anyway. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply turned and walked out of the great hall, through the castle gates, and into the night. By morning, she would be gone. No trace, no trail, no name. What Carenza didn't know was that her disappearance would break something in the Alpha King that no healer could fix. That within weeks, Theron would tear his own kingdom apart searching for the mate he'd rejected. Or that the reason he'd walked past her was a lie he'd believed his entire life. The Great Hall of Valdris had never held so many wolves. They came from every corner of the kingdom. Nobles and commoners, warriors and merchants, all packed into the glittering expanse of marble and gold. Banners bearing the royal crest hung from vaulted ceilings. Thousands of candles burned in iron chandeliers, casting dancing shadows across faces tight with anticipation. Tonight, the Alpha King would finally choose his mate. Carenza shouldn't have been there. She knew that. Hollow hearts didn't attend royal ceremonies. Hollow hearts stayed in the shadows where they belonged, scrubbing floors and washing linens and pretending they didn't exist. But something had pulled her here tonight. A whisper in her blood she couldn't explain. A restlessness that had kept her awake for 3 days straight, her skin prickling with unnamed anticipation. So she'd stolen a servant's cloak, slipped past the guards and pressed herself into the back of the crowd, where no one would notice another hooded figure. Just to see him. Just once. Foolish, she told herself. You're a hollow heart. You can't even feel bonds. That's what they'd always told her. Her wolf was dormant, possibly dead. She would never experience the electric recognition of finding a mate. She would never feel that legendary pull, that instant knowing, that completion of soul. She was defective, empty, hollow. And yet, when the great doors swung open and Alpha King Theron strode into the hall, Carenza's entire body seized. He was tall. That was her first thought, fighting through the sudden roaring in her ears. Tall and broad-shouldered, with hair the color of dark honey and eyes like molten amber. He moved like a predator, all coiled power and absolute certainty, and the crowd parted before him like water around stone. But it wasn't his beauty that made Carenza grip the pillar beside her until her knuckles went white. It was the feeling, something deep in her chest. Something that had been cold and silent her entire life, suddenly lurched awake. It uncurled like a creature emerging from hibernation, stretching, yawning, and looking. And then it found him. Mate. The word exploded through her mind with such force that Carenza gasped aloud. Her wolf, her supposedly dead, dormant, impossible wolf, was suddenly there, fully present. chi flooding her body with heat and recognition and clawing need. Mate. Ours. Go to him. Claim him. Now. Carenza couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. 23 years of silence, and now her wolf chose to wake? Theron had ascended the dais. The crowd hushed as he turned to face them, his expression carved from stone. Cold. Regal. Untouchable. His eyes swept the hall and stopped on her. For one endless crystalline moment, their gazes locked. Carenza felt the impact like a physical blow, felt the bond between them pull taut, singing with recognition. His nostrils flared almost imperceptibly. His jaw tightened. He feels it too, she thought, her heart soaring. He knows. Theron looked away. His expression didn't change. Not a flicker of emotion, not a hint of acknowledgement. He simply turned his attention elsewhere, as if that moment of connection had meant nothing. Carenza's wolf whimpered in confusion. The king descended from the dais, walking slowly through the crowd. Women preened as he passed, tilting their necks in submission, hoping to catch his attention. He passed a dark-haired princess, a red-headed noble, a group of high-born sisters dressed in matching silk. He was getting closer to the back, closer to her. Carenza's heart hammered against her ribs. Every step he took made the bond sing louder, made her wolf howl with increasing urgency. He's coming, he felt it. He's coming for me. Theron stopped, 10 feet away from her. Close enough that she could see the individual threads of gold in his hair, the hard line of his mouth, the way his hands were clenched at his sides. He didn't look at her. He turned sharply left and walked to the front row, where a silver-haired woman waited with a small, triumphant smile. Lady Lysara, daughter of the Northern Lord. Beautiful, powerful, politically advantageous. I choose her, Theron announced, his voice filling the great hall. Lady Lysara of the Northern Territories, as my mate, my queen, my bond. The cheering was deafening, but Carenza heard none of it. She stood frozen, her wolf screaming inside her chest, as Theron took Lysara's hand and lifted it for the crowd to see. As he recited the words of claiming, words meant for her, words her bond was shrieking should be hers, to another woman. The mate bond stretched between them, invisible and ignored, and Carenza felt it begin to fray. Rejection. This was what rejection felt like. Not cold, not numbness. It was fire. It was every nerve in her body igniting at once. It was her newly awakened wolf howling in agony as the man who should have been hers turned his back. Carenza didn't remember leaving. One moment she was standing in the crowd, shaking and breaking. The next, she was running through darkened corridors, past startled guards, out into the cold night air. She ran until her legs gave out, until she collapsed beside a frozen stream outside the castle walls, gasping and sobbing and clutching her chest where something vital had cracked in half. He had felt her. She knew he had felt her. And he had chosen someone else anyway. Why? The pain didn't fade with distance. Carenza had hoped it would. She'd heard stories of wolves who survived rejection by fleeing far enough that the bond stretched thin and eventually snapped. But as she stumbled through the forest in the hours before dawn, the agony only intensified. Her wolf was inconsolable. It paced inside her mind, clawing at the edges, howling a grief so profound that Carenza couldn't separate it from her own. Mate. Our mate. Why? Why? She had no answers. By the time the first gray light crept over the mountains, Carenza had reached the small room she'd been renting above a tanner's shop. The smell of leather and chemicals filled her nostrils as she climbed the narrow stairs, her body moving on instinct while her mind replayed that moment over and over, his eyes finding hers, the flash of recognition, the way his jaw had tightened. And then nothing. Cold dismissal. Another woman's hand in his. He knew, she thought, collapsing onto her thin mattress. He felt the bond and rejected it anyway. That was worse. Somehow, than if he hadn't felt it at all. If her hollow heart had remained hollow, she could have told herself it was never meant to be. That she was simply defective, as everyone always said. But her wolf was awake now. The bond was real. And he had looked at her, and chosen someone else. A knock at her door made her flinch. "Carenza?" A familiar voice, worried. "I know you're in there. Let me in." Tanith. The only friend she had in the capital. A healer's apprentice who worked in the castle and occasionally smuggled Carenza food from the kitchens. "Go away," Carenza managed. The door opened anyway. Tanith slipped inside, her dark eyes widening as she took in Carenza's state. The tangled hair, the tear-streaked face, the way she was curled around herself as if holding her chest together. "I heard what happened," Tanith said softly, settling onto the edge of the mattress. "The other servants were talking. They said a hooded woman ran from the great hall during the ceremony." So I know it was you." Tanith reached out, brushing hair from Carenza's face. "What happened? You weren't supposed to be there at all." Carenza closed her eyes. How could she explain it? How could she put into words the impossible thing that had occurred? The wolf that shouldn't exist? The bond that shouldn't have formed? The mate who shouldn't have rejected her? "My wolf woke up," she said quietly. Tanith went very still. "What?" "I felt him. The king." Carenza's voice cracked. "I felt the mate bond. And he felt it too. I saw him feel it, Tanith. And then he walked past me and chose someone else." For a long moment, Tanith said nothing. Her hand remained on Carenza's hair, steady and warm. "That's not possible," she said finally. "You're a hollow heart. Everyone knows that. Your wolf has been dormant since birth." "I know what I felt." "And the king felt it too? You're certain?" "I'm certain." Another silence. Then Tanith exhaled slowly. "If that's true, if the Alpha King rejected a genuine mate bond, do you understand what that means?" Carenza laughed bitterly. "It means I get to spend the rest of my life in agony while he parades around with his perfect silver-haired queen. It means he committed a crime against nature." Tanith's voice was deadly serious. "A true mate bond isn't something you walk away from. The magic doesn't allow it. Both parties suffer. Physically, mentally, spiritually. If you're telling the truth, then the king isn't just cruel. He's either incredibly stupid or incredibly cornered." Carenza opened her eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean, no wolf rejects their true mate unless they have a reason." Tanith leaned closer. "A very, very good reason." The words settled into Carenza's mind, but she couldn't make sense of them. What reason could possibly justify what he'd done? What excuse could make up for this? Nothing. There was nothing. "I have to leave," Carenza said abruptly, sitting up. "Tonight. Now. Before anyone realizes who I am or what happened." "Where will you go?" "I don't know. Far. As far as I can get." She was already moving, pulling her small pack from beneath the bed, shoving her meager possessions into it. "If I stay here, the bond will destroy me. I can already feel it. Like a wound that won't stop bleeding." Tanith watched her with sad eyes. "Running won't break the bond." "Maybe not. But at least I won't have to watch him with her." She couldn't. The thought of seeing Theron again, of feeling his presence through the bond while he held another woman, touched another woman, claimed another woman, made her want to claw her own heart out. Tanith rose. "I have a cousin in the eastern provinces, a small village called Ashgrove. It's 3 weeks' travel, but she could shelter you. No one there would know you." "Thank you." Carenza gripped her friend's hands. "For everything." "You're sure about this?" Was she sure? Carenza looked around the tiny room that had been her home for 2 years. The narrow bed, the cracked window, the single candle on the wobbly table. She'd come to the capital hoping to build a new life where no one knew she was a hollow heart, a throwaway, a mistake. And the family who'd raised her, distant relatives, paid to keep her, had made it clear she was a burden. A mouth to feed with no wolf to contribute. They'd been relieved when she left. Now she had to start over again. Because of him. "I'm sure," she said. She was gone before the sun cleared the mountains. Behind her, in the castle on the hill, a king stood at his window watching the dawn. His hands were pressed against the cold glass. His chest ached with a pain he didn't understand. And somewhere deep inside him, a wolf howled for something he had just lost forever. 3 weeks later, Theron realized something was wrong. Not with the kingdom, though the nobles were already muttering about his sudden coldness, his distraction, the way his temper had shortened to a knife's edge. And not with the upcoming wedding, though Lysara had begun watching him with suspicious eyes whenever she thought he wasn't looking. Something was wrong with him. He stood before his chamber mirror, shirtless, examining the grayish tinge that had crept into his skin overnight. His eyes, once bright amber, had dulled to a muddy brown. His hands that had never trembled in his 30 years of life, now shook when he tried to fasten his own buttons. And the cold. It had started as a chill he couldn't shake, even beside roaring fires. Now it had sunk into his bones, into the very marrow of him, a permanent frost that no amount of heat could touch. "Your Majesty?" His advisor Rendwick hovered by the door, concern etched into his weathered face. "The healers are waiting. Send them away." "Sire," Han with respect. "I said send them away." Theron watched Rendwick's reflection hesitate, then bow and retreat. When the door closed, he pressed his palm against the mirror and stared at the stranger looking back at him. "You know what this is," his wolf growled. "Stop pretending you don't." He did know. The symptoms were unmistakable. Every pup learned about them in their first lessons on wolf biology. The gradual deterioration, the coldness, the fading vitality, rejection sickness. It happened when a wolf denied their true mate. The bond, unable to complete itself, began to poison the one who refused it. Slowly at first, then faster, then all at once. Without treatment, without acknowledging and completing the bond, death was inevitable. Theron closed his eyes and saw her again, that hooded figure in the back of the crowd. The way the bond had snapped into place like a key turning in a lock. The overwhelming, terrifying, perfect rightness of it. His true mate, the one the prophecy had warned him about. "She will be your destruction," his father had rasped on his deathbed, gripping Theron's wrist with skeletal fingers. "The seers have spoken. If you bond with your true mate, the kingdom of Valdris will fall. You must reject her, my son. No matter how much it hurts, the kingdom comes first." And so Theron had spent 10 years avoiding large gatherings, 10 years keeping himself isolated, hoping he'd never meet her, never have to make that choice. Then she'd appeared in his great hall, small and hooded and trembling, pressed against a pillar like she was trying to disappear into the stone. He hadn't even seen her face clearly, just those eyes. Dark and deep and filled with such sudden blazing hope that it had nearly dropped him to his knees. His wolf had lunged toward her so violently that Theron had to lock his muscles to keep from crossing the room. Mate. Claim. Now. Ours. But the prophecy, his father's dying words, the responsibility of an entire kingdom weighing on his shoulders. So he'd looked away, chosen Lysara, condemned himself, and protected Valdris, or so he'd thought. "The woman," he said aloud to the empty room. "Find out who she was." But that was the problem. He'd sent his guards searching the moment Lysara fell asleep that night. An ache in his chest demanding answers. They'd found nothing. No hooded woman in the crowd. No servant matching that description. No record of anyone entering or leaving through the gates at that hour. She'd vanished like smoke. "Impossible," Theron muttered, turning from the mirror. "No one disappears completely." He dressed quickly, ignoring the weakness in his limbs, and strode through the castle corridors. Servants scrambled out of his path, guards snapped to attention. Everyone saw the king, but no one saw the man crumbling behind the mask. He found Lysara in the solar, embroidering something delicate and useless. "My lord," she said, rising gracefully. "You look unwell." "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." "Perhaps?" I said I'm fine. He hadn't meant to snap. But lately his temper was a wild thing, barely leashed, prowling beneath his skin alongside a wolf that refused to accept Lysara as its mate. Because she wasn't. The bond between them was hollow, performative, a political agreement dressed up as destiny. Every time Lysara touched him, his wolf recoiled. Every time she smiled, he saw another smile, one he'd glimpsed for barely a heartbeat before he'd destroyed everything. "The search," Theron said. "Expand it." Lysara's expression flickered. "What search, my lord?" "For the woman from the ceremony, the hooded one." Silence fell between them like a blade. "And why?" Lysara asked softly. "Are you searching for her?" "Because she's my true mate. Because rejecting her is killing me. Because I made a choice to save this kingdom, and it's costing me everything." "Kingdom business," Theron said. Lysara's eyes hardened. She was no fool. She'd felt the emptiness of their bond too. She knew she wasn't his fated mate. She'd accepted the arrangement anyway because being queen was better than being nothing. But she wouldn't tolerate competition. "Perhaps," Lysara said carefully. "This woman has already left the capital. Perhaps she's gone somewhere you'll never find her." Theron's wolf snarled. "Then I'll search beyond the capital." "And if she's gone further?" "Then I'll search the entire kingdom." "And if—" "Then I will tear this kingdom apart stone by stone until I find her." The words exploded out of him, raw and ragged and far more honest than he intended. Lysara stepped back, genuine fear flickering across her face. Theron forced himself to breathe. "Forgive me," he said flatly. "I am unwell." He turned and left before she could respond, but as he walked back through the corridors, colder now, always colder, his wolf's voice echoed through his mind. "Find her. Find her before it is too late, before we die, without ever knowing her name." Ashgrove was the kind of village that cartographers forgot to mark on their maps. Nestled in a valley between two nameless mountains, it consisted of perhaps 40 families, a single tavern, a mill, and a healer's cottage where Tanith's cousin Brielle lived alone with her herbs and her silence. It was perfect. Carenza had arrived hollow-eyed and shaking, barely able to stand. For the first week, she'd done nothing but sleep, or try to. The bond kept her awake, pulsing with distant pain that wasn't entirely her own. Sometimes she felt flashes of emotion that didn't belong to her. Cold fury, frantic searching, and a loneliness so profound it made her weep. His emotions, bleeding through the bond he'd rejected. Good, she thought viciously. Let him suffer too. But as the weeks passed, and the bond's constant ache faded to something almost manageable, Brielle gave her work, grinding herbs, mixing poultices, delivering medicines to the villagers who lived too far from the cottage to fetch their own. The labor was simple and exhausting, and by the end of each day, Carenza was tired enough to sleep without dreaming. Almost. "You're stronger than you look," Brielle observed one morning, watching Carenza haul a basket of dried lavender across the cottage. The older woman had Tanith's dark eyes but none of her warmth. She spoke rarely and smiled less. "I've had practice surviving," Carenza replied. "The bond hasn't broken you yet." Carenza's hand stilled on the basket. "You know? I'm a healer. I can see it in your aura. The stretched thread, the half-formed connection." Brielle's gaze was clinical, assessing. "Most wolves don't survive rejection this long. Either they fade, or they go mad, or they crawl back to the one who hurt them. I won't crawl." "No." Something like respect flickered across Brielle's weathered face. "I don't think you will." 3 months passed. Carenza learned the names of every family in Ashgrove. She delivered a baby in the middle of a thunderstorm. She taught herself to read the old healing texts in Brielle's library, sounding out words in languages dead for centuries. She built a life. Small, quiet, hers. And she tried very, very hard not to think about him. But some nights, when the wind howled through the valley and the bond pulsed with distant agony, she couldn't help it. She lay awake and wondered if he ever thought of her, if he regretted what he'd done, and if he was suffering even a fraction of what she'd suffered. Far to the west, in the castle of Valdres, the Alpha King was dying. Theron no longer recognized his own reflection. The gray had spread from his skin to his hair, silver threads creeping through the dark honey until he looked decades older than his 30 years. His eyes had gone nearly colorless, pale, washed out, the amber completely consumed. And the cold. Gods, the cold. He wore 3 layers of wool even beside a roaring fire. His servants had stopped commenting on it. His advisors had stopped meeting his eyes. Everyone knew what was happening. No one dared say it aloud. The search has expanded to the outer provinces, Rendwick reported, his voice carefully neutral. We've questioned over 3,000 wolves in the past month alone. Not enough. Sire, with respect, the kingdom is suffering. The resources required for a search of this magnitude. I don't care about resources. The people are asking questions. They want to know why their king is tearing the realm apart looking for a servant girl no one can identify. Theron's hand slammed against the table, cracking the wood. She is not a servant girl. She is my... He stopped. His mate. His true mate. The words caught in his throat like thorns. Rendwick waited, patient and unsurprised. Find her, Theron said quietly. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes. Find her before I die. Before this cold reaches my heart. Before I lose the chance to explain. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Rendwick bowed and withdrew. Alone, Theron pressed his palm against his chest, feeling the sluggish beat of his heart. And it was slowing. Day by day, hour by hour, the rejection was killing him, just as the old texts promised it would. You chose this, his wolf snarled. You walked away from her. I had no choice. Lies. You believed a prophecy over the bond, over her. The argument was old now. Theron was tired of having it. He closed his eyes and reached for the bond, that thin, fraying thread that still connected him to her, wherever she was. For months, he'd been able to feel her pain, her anger, her grief. But lately the connection had grown weaker. Either she was healing, or she was dying too. Both possibilities terrified him. The breakthrough came on a frozen morning in the 4th month. A merchant passing through the eastern provinces mentioned stopping at a healer's cottage in some backwater village. The healer's assistant, he said, had been young, dark-haired, quiet. And her eyes. He'd never forget her eyes. Dark and deep, with a sadness in them that made a man want to look away. The merchant had thought nothing of it at the time, but the king's soldiers had been asking about a dark-haired, dark-eyed woman, offering gold for information. The merchant liked gold very much. Within hours, the information reached Rendwick. Within a day, it reached Theron. Ash Grove, the king read from the report, his voice barely a whisper. Eastern provinces, 3 weeks' travel. He looked up at Rendwick, and for the first time in months, something sparked in those faded eyes, hope. Prepare my horse, Theron commanded. We leave within the hour. Sire, in your condition. I'll make it. He had to. Because somewhere in a village called Ashgrove, the woman who could save him, or destroy him, was waiting. Whether she wanted to see him or not. Carenza felt him coming before she heard the hoofbeats. She was in the forest gathering witch hazel when the bond suddenly flared to life. No longer a dull ache, but a shrieking pulse, growing stronger with every heartbeat. Her wolf, subdued for months, surged awake with a howl that echoed through her skull. Mate. Close. Coming. No, she breathed, dropping her basket. No, no, no. She ran. Not toward the village. That was the first place they'd search. Instead, she plunged deeper into the forest, toward the caves Brielle had shown her during a foraging expedition weeks ago. Hidden, defensible, safe. Behind her, the bond pulled tighter. She could feel him now, not just his presence, but his emotions. Longing, wild hope that made her stomach turn. How dare he feel hopeful? How dare he come here after what he'd done? The cave entrance appeared between two massive boulders. Carenza squeezed through the gap and pressed herself against the cold stone, heart pounding, barely breathing. Outside, the forest went silent. Then, footsteps. Heavy, uneven, accompanied by the sound of ragged breathing. I know you're here. His voice. That voice that had haunted her dreams for 4 months, declaring another woman his mate, his queen, his bond. I can feel you, Theron continued, and there was something wrong with his voice. A weakness, a tremor. Please, I need to explain. Carenza pressed her hand over her mouth to keep from crying out. Go away, she thought savagely. Go back to your silver-haired queen and leave me alone. I'm dying, Carenza. She went still. He knew her name. Somehow, he'd learned her name. And dying? The rejection, Theron said, and now she could hear the raw pain beneath the words. It's killing me. I have weeks left. Maybe days. The healers can't help. Nothing can help except me? Carenza's voice exploded from her before she could stop it. You reject me in front of 1,000 wolves, choose another woman as your queen, and now you come crawling here because you're dying? Silence. Then quietly, yes. The honesty of it stunned her. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Theron said. I don't deserve it. But before I die, I need you to know the truth. I need you to understand why. I don't care why. Carenza, you felt me. Her voice cracked, all the pain she'd buried for 4 months surging up at once. You looked right at me. I saw it in your eyes. The recognition, the bond. And you walked away. You chose her. I know. So go back to her. Let her save you. Let her be your... She can't. Theron's voice was barely audible now. The bond with Lysara was never real. It was political. Arranged. My wolf rejected her from the first moment. She knows that. Everyone knows that. Then why? Because of a prophecy. Carenza went still. My father, Theron continued, and she could hear him leaning against the boulders now, his breath coming harder. On his deathbed, he told me what the seers had seen, that my true mate would be my destruction, that if I bonded with her, with you, the kingdom of Valdris would fall. The words hung in the air between them. So you rejected me, Carenza said slowly, to save your kingdom. I thought I was making the noble choice, the kingly choice. A bitter laugh. Instead, I'm dying anyway, and the kingdom is suffering from my distraction, and I've destroyed the one person who... His voice cut off abruptly. Carenza heard a heavy thud. Silence. Theron? Nothing. Against every instinct howling at her to stay hidden, Carenza squeezed back through the gap and emerged into the forest. He was on the ground. The Alpha King of Valdris lay crumpled at the base of a snow-covered tree, his skin gray, his lips blue, his chest rising and falling in shallow, uneven gasps. Up close, she could see what the rejection had done to him. The silver in his hair, the hollowness of his cheeks, the way he looked like a man being slowly frozen from the inside out. Her wolf whined in distress. Mate. Dying. Save him. Save him. No, Carenza said quietly, stepping back. He did this to himself. But she couldn't look away. I couldn't stop seeing the way his hand reached toward her even in unconsciousness, his fingers grasping at empty air. She should leave him here. Let the cold take him. Let him die the way he'd let their bond die. She should. She didn't. Cursing herself in every language she knew, Carenza gripped Theron's arm and began dragging him toward the village. Brielle took one look at the unconscious king and began issuing orders. The back room. More blankets. Heat water. As hot as you can get it. I know who he is. Brielle's voice was sharp. And I know what's killing him. But he's still a patient in my cottage. And I don't let patients die. Together they hauled Theron onto the narrow bed in the back room. Carenza's hands shook as she piled blankets over him, as she pressed heated stones wrapped in cloth against his chest. He was so cold, colder than the winter air outside, colder than anything living should be. His heart is slowing, Brielle said, her fingers on his pulse. The rejection sickness is in its final stage, without intervention. What kind of intervention? Brielle looked at her steadily. You know what kind. The bond. The claiming. The bite that would seal them together forever. No. Carenza stepped back. I won't. Then he dies. Let him. But even as she said it, her wolf howled in protest. Her body ached to move closer, to touch him, to complete what should have been completed 4 months ago. You don't mean that, Brielle said quietly. He rejected me. In front of everyone. He chose someone else. He chose wrong. And now he's paying for it. That's not my problem. It is if you want to survive. Brielle's voice turned clinical. The rejection is killing him faster, but it's killing you too. The bond won't break until one of you dies. And if he dies first, the backlash. I know about the backlash. She did. Every wolf learned about it. When a mate bond was severed by death, the surviving partner felt it like a piece of their soul being ripped away. Many didn't survive. Those who did were never the same. So you have a choice, Brielle said. Save him and complete the bond, or let him die and risk dying yourself. Some choice. It's the only one you have. Brielle gathered her supplies and left the room, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Carenza stood rooted, staring at the dying king in the narrow bed. He looked smaller like this, diminished. The arrogance she'd seen in the great hall was gone, but replaced by something raw and broken and achingly vulnerable. His eyes opened. Gray now, she realized. No longer amber. The cold had taken even that. Carenza, he breathed. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't say my name like that. Like what? Like it means something. It means everything. He tried to sit up, failed, fell back against the pillows. You're everything. I knew it the moment I saw you. My wolf. It's never wanted anything the way it wanted you. And yet, you walked away. I thought I was saving my kingdom. From me? Carenza laughed bitterly. I'm a hollow heart, a nobody. I spent my entire life being told I was defective, worthless, and incapable of even feeling a bond. And then the one time my wolf finally woke up. Her voice broke. He chose someone else anyway. Theron's expression shattered. Carenza, please. Do you know what that did to me? She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I thought there was something wrong with me my whole life. And then I felt you. I felt the bond. And for one moment I thought maybe I wasn't broken after all. You're not broken. Then why wasn't I enough? The question hung between them like a blade. Theron closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were bright with tears she hadn't expected. You were enough, he said hoarsely. You were more than enough. I was the broken one, believing a prophecy over my own bond, trusting dead seers over my living mate. The prophecy said I would destroy your kingdom. The prophecy was wrong. Or I misunderstood it, or... He shook his head weakly. I don't know. I don't care anymore. All I know is that I've spent 4 months searching for you. 4 months watching my kingdom fall apart while I fell apart with it. And now I'm here, dying at your feet. And all I want... He stopped. What? Carenza breathed. All I want is for you to know the truth. His voice was fading now. You were never my destruction, you were my salvation, and I was too afraid to let you save me. His eyes closed, his chest went still, and Carenza screamed. No, 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 no. Carenza's hands found Theron's chest, pressing down, feeling for a heartbeat that wasn't there. His skin was ice beneath her palms. His lips had gone from blue to white. He wasn't breathing. Brielle, she cried out. But even as the healer's footsteps pounded toward the room, something inside Carenza snapped. Her wolf, crazed with grief, refusing to accept the death of its mate, seized control completely. It shoved Carenza's consciousness aside and took over her body with a force that left no room for resistance. Before she understood what was happening, her teeth had found Theron's throat. She bit down. The bond exploded. Light and fire and something primal roared through her veins, connecting her to him in a way that went beyond flesh, beyond blood, beyond anything she could name. She felt his wolf. Weak, dying, but still there. Reach for hers with desperate relief. Mate. Finally. Ours. Carenza jerked back, gasping, her mouth tasting of copper. The claiming mark bloomed on Theron's throat, red and raw and unmistakable. What had she done? Beneath her hands, Theron's chest heaved, his eyes flew open, and for the first time in months, she saw amber flickering beneath the gray. Carenza, he breathed. I didn't... She scrambled backward, horrified at herself. I didn't mean to. My wolf just... You saved me. I made a mistake. You saved me, he repeated, and there was wonder in his voice now, wonder and something painfully close to hope. You claimed me. Partially. Brielle stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. The mark will stabilize him temporarily. But without a mutual claiming, without him marking you in return, the bond remains incomplete. He'll relapse within days. Theron struggled to sit up. Then I'll claim her now. You'll do nothing of the sort. Carenza's voice came out harder than she intended. I saved your life because my wolf forced my hand. That doesn't mean I've forgiven you. That doesn't mean I want... I know. Theron's voice was quiet. I know what I have to earn, Carenza. I'm not asking you to forgive me today. And I'm asking for the chance to deserve forgiveness eventually. She wanted to scream at him, to throw him out into the snow and let the cold finish what rejection had started. But the bond hummed between them now, warm and alive, and despite everything, despite the betrayal, the pain, the 4 months of agony, her wolf purred with contentment. The prophecy, Carenza said finally. Tell me everything. Theron's expression darkened. My father heard it from a seer named Valoris. He served our court for decades, trusted by 3 generations of kings. And this seer told your father that bonding with your true mate would destroy Valdris? Not in those exact words. Theron's brow furrowed. He said, the king's fated mate carries destruction in her blood. Should their bond complete, the old order of Valdris shall crumble to ash. Carenza let the words settle into her mind. Something about them felt wrong, not false, exactly, but incomplete. The old order, she repeated slowly. Not the kingdom itself. The old order. Theron stared at her. What? Your father assumed the prophecy meant Valdris would fall, but what if it meant something else? What if the old order refers to... A crash from the front of the cottage cut her off. Brielle spun toward the door, then froze. Soldiers, she murmured. At least a dozen, and me, said a silver-sweet voice from outside. Open the door, healer. I've come for what belongs to the crown. Lysara. The door burst inward before anyone could move. Soldiers flooded the small cottage, their armor gleaming in the firelight, their swords already drawn. Behind them, where wrapped in white fur and wearing a smile like a knife's edge, came Lady Lysara of the Northern Territories. Her eyes found Theron first, then the claiming mark on his throat. The smile vanished. You claimed her? Lysara's voice rose to a shriek. You dying fool! You've ruined everything! Theron stepped in front of Carenza, swaying but determined. Lysara, this doesn't concern you. Our arrangement was political. You knew. I knew you were supposed to die. Lysara's composure cracked completely, revealing something ugly beneath. That was the entire point. The prophecy, your father's fear, your noble self-sacrifice. It was all designed to end with you dead and the northern territories claiming the throne. Carenza's blood went cold. You manufactured the prophecy? Lysara laughed, a bitter, vicious sound. My father did, actually. Lord Lysander paid the seer Valoris 30 years ago to speak those words to the old king, to ensure that when the crown prince found his true mate, he would reject her. And rejection always ends in death. You wanted Valdris, Theron said slowly, horror dawning in his voice. Your family has been planning this for decades. 3 generations of planning. Lysara's eyes glittered with fury. And you almost followed the script perfectly. You rejected your mate. You started dying. You would have been dead within the month, and I would have been crowned as your grieving queen. She stepped closer, and Carenza saw the madness lurking beneath the beauty. But then you had to search for her, had to find her, had to let her save you. Lysara spat at Carenza's feet. A hollow heart from nowhere, in destroying everything my family built. Hollow heart, Carenza said quietly. How do you know that word? Lysara's smile returned, thin and cruel. Because my family created it. Your mother was one of ours, a northern woman who served in the Valdris court. When she conceived you with one of the king's guards, my father saw an opportunity. A child with potential ties to the royal household. So he had a witch suppress your wolf while you were still in the womb. Made you seem defective. Worthless. Then he had you placed with a family far from the capital. Distant enough that no one would connect you to the court. Close enough that fate might still bring you to Theron one day. The world tilted beneath Carenza's feet. You're lying. Am I? Lysara tilted her head. Tell me, Hollowheart, when did your wolf finally wake? And the moment you saw your true mate, yes? The suppression spell was designed to break only then. My father wanted to ensure that if you ever did find the king, you'd seem like a sudden miracle. A mysterious, hood-wearing nobody emerging from the crowd. So that Theron would reject her, Brielle said quietly from behind them. Because who would believe a hollow heart could be a king's true mate? Exactly. Lysara's voice dripped with satisfaction. The perfect victim. Rejected publicly, destroyed privately, and dead before anyone asked questions. Carenza couldn't breathe. Her entire life, the abandonment, the mockery, the hollow heart label that had defined her existence, had been manufactured. A political scheme spanning decades, and she had almost died for it. Enough history. Lysara waved a hand. Kill them both. Make it look like bandits. The council will believe whatever I tell them. The soldiers advanced, but Theron moved first. Weakened as he was, the partial bond had given him just enough strength to shift. His wolf erupted from his skin, massive, honey-furred and magnificent even in its diminished state, and lunged at the nearest soldiers with a roar that shook the walls. Carenza, run! She didn't run. Instead, for the first time in her life, Carenza reached for her wolf intentionally, felt the creature that had been suppressed for 23 years, free at last, finally hers. And she shifted. Carenza had never known what she truly was. Her wolf was massive, larger than any she'd ever seen, with fur the color of dark flame and eyes that burned like embers. Power flooded through her, overwhelming. In the birthright that had been stolen from her finally returned. The soldiers faltered. What? Lysara stumbled backward. That's impossible. The suppression should have stunted her permanently. Carenza's wolf didn't give her time to finish. She moved like wildfire through the small cottage, her claws finding armor gaps, her teeth finding throats. Soldiers fell around her, and those who didn't fall fled, scrambling out the shattered door into the snow. Theron fought beside her, weaker but no less fierce. Together they drove Lysara's forces back, until only Lysara herself remained, pressed against the wall with nowhere to run. "You can't kill me." Lysara's voice had gone shrill with panic. "I'm a northern noble. My father commands 10,000 wolves. If you touch me..." "Your father's conspiracy just became public knowledge." The voice came from the doorway. Rendwick stepped inside, flanked by a dozen royal guards wearing the colors of Valdris. His weathered face was grim as he surveyed the destruction. "We intercepted messages between Lord Lysander and the remaining members of the conspiracy," Rendwick continued. "The council has already issued orders for their arrest. Your father's forces are surrounded." Lysara's face went white. "You... how?" "The king ordered me to investigate," Rendwick said simply. "I simply took my time reporting what I found until the evidence was complete." He looked at Theron, at the claiming mark on his throat, at the massive flame-colored wolf standing at his side, and something like peace settled over his features. "The prophecy was always about this moment, wasn't it?" Rendwick asked quietly. "The old order crumbling to ash, not the kingdom, the corruption that had infected it for generations." Carenza shifted back to human form, her body trembling with exhaustion and residual adrenaline. Theron shifted beside her, immediately reaching for her hand. "It's over," he said. But even as he spoke, he swayed. The partial bond had given him enough strength to fight, but now that the battle was finished, the temporary reprieve was fading. Gray crept back into his skin. His fingers went cold in her grip. "Theron." "The bond," Brielle said urgently, stepping forward from where she'd sheltered during the fight. "It's not enough. He needs the full claiming or he won't survive the night." Lysara laughed from her corner, weak, bitter, defeated. "Then let him die. He rejected you, Hollowheart. He chose me. Why would you save someone who... Because I'm not like you." Carenza's voice cut through the room, steady and certain. "I've spent my whole life being told I was worthless, defective, unwanted." She looked at Theron, at this man who had destroyed her and searched for her and was now dying at her feet. "But I'm not what others made me. I'm what I choose to be." She stepped closer, her hand still gripping his. "And I choose to save my mate." The claiming was nothing like she'd expected. In the stories, it was always violent, a primal act of possession, of dominance, of ownership. But when Carenza guided Theron to the bed Brielle had prepared, when she knelt beside him and tilted her head to expose her throat, there was no violence at all, only tenderness. "You don't have to," Theron said softly, his voice breaking. "After everything I've done, I know what you did. I know why you did it." Carenza cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You believed a lie because you thought it would save your people. You were wrong. But you searched for me anyway. You tore your kingdom apart to find me. I couldn't live without you. Even when I thought you were my destruction, I couldn't. I was never your destruction." She smiled through her tears. "I was the end of the old order, and the beginning of something new." Theron's eyes, gray and fading, searched her face. "Do you forgive me?" "Not yet." She leaned closer, pressing her forehead against his. "But I'm going to spend the rest of our lives letting you earn it." She pulled back her hair, exposing the curve of her throat. "Claim me." Theron's wolf surged forward, weak but fierce. He devoted beyond measure. His teeth found her skin, gentle at first, then piercing, then completing. The bond snapped into place like the universe clicking into alignment. Carenza gasped as she felt everything, his memories, his emotions, his love for her burning so bright it eclipsed the guilt and shame surrounding it. She felt him feel her in return. The years of loneliness, the pain of rejection, the stubborn hope that had refused to die even when she wanted it to. They were one, irrevocably, completely one. And as the bond settled between them, Theron's skin flushed with warmth. The gray receded. His eyes blazed amber gold, brighter than she'd ever seen them. "Carenza," he breathed, and there was wonder in his voice. "I can feel you. I can feel everything." She kissed him. It was their first real kiss, not desperate or dying, but joyful. Alive. His arms came around her, strong now, warm now, and she melted into him as 23 years of loneliness ended at last. 6 months later, the throne room of Valdres had never been so crowded. Wolves had come from every corner of the kingdom and beyond to witness the coronation of their new queen. The northern territories had been absorbed into the crown's direct control after Lord Lysander's execution. The old conspiracies had been exposed and dismantled, and the kingdom that everyone had feared would crumble was stronger than it had been in generations. Carenza stood beside Theron, wearing a crown of hammered gold and a gown the color of flame. Her wolf hummed contentedly beneath her skin, complete in a way she'd never known was possible. "Nervous?" Theron murmured, his hand finding hers. "Terrified," she admitted. "But I have you. Always." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "Through everything." The high priest stepped forward, beginning the words of coronation, but Carenza barely heard them. She was too busy feeling the bond between them. Warm and steady and permanent. A connection that would last until their final breath and beyond. She'd spent her whole life believing she was hollow. Now she understood the truth. She'd never been empty at all. The capacity for love, for power, for destiny had always been inside her, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. Waiting for him. In the crowd, she spotted familiar faces. Tanith, who had traveled from the capital to witness her friend's coronation. Brielle, standing apart with her arms crossed but a small smile on her weathered face. Rendwick, watching his king with quiet pride, her family, not by blood, but by choice. Later that night, alone in their chambers, Theron held her close and spoke against her hair. "The prophecy was right, you know." "You did destroy everything." His voice was warm with love and wonder. "Everything broken, everything false, everything that kept us apart." He pressed a kiss to her claiming mark. "And what you built in its place was so much better." Carenza smiled, turning in his arms to face him. "We built it together." "Together," he agreed. Outside their window, the kingdom of Valdres stretched toward the horizon, healed, whole, and free at last. And in the arms of her mate, Carenza understood what it meant to be complete.